I'm so sorry, guys. I apologize. I need some answers here. I need some answers. Who's the snitch? Somebody messaged me that you're discussing my article on the podcast. I will listen to it later and send you my DMs with my thoughts.
Is it Darth Chris?
That's great.
It's probably Darth Chris.
That's hilarious.
I want to know who did this.
On him.
Can you tell him to name drop us next time? Like,
yeah. Everyone, this is Nick. He's our replacement for Amit right now. Amit's on a secret journey to go find himself. He's a changed man.
How did you learn about SoFi and when did you start like investing?
My financial advisor during the SPAC craze, he gave me a list of like 10 SPACs. He's like, throw $1,000 in each one, and because they were just popping off left and right and merging, and you know, it was a guaranteed 100% return. Unfortunately, I didn't sell all of them. But the one that I ended up holding out of that group was SoFi. It was IPOE at the time. I did a little research on it, and I could tell doing research on Noto, his vision for the company. I could tell this could be a potential 10-bagger down the road. I saw the potential. I decided to hold on to that one, and I continued to add and continue to add. And like most people, I'm down quite a bit on it, but I still have more faith than ever. I mean, they've executed beyond my expectations.
No, I'm just saying.
Nick just looks better than me without the beard, so they got rid of me.
Throw up Tim's comment.
This?
Yeah.
Jeez, you guys are crazy.
So
you
back to what I was.
I mean,
you just sound like my grandpa.
I throw that in just naturally now. That's part of my vocabulary.
Okay, so back to what I was saying. Damn it. What was I saying? Okay, I remember. So SoFi announces their earnings date. A lot of people like to speculate on like the date when it's coming out because it possibly might give a little news on how the company is thinking of itself before it releases the earnings. And it's early in the morning, so a lot of people say that's going to be like a good sign.
There was a tweet that I read. I'll just read it out. SoFi has brought earnings forward versus prior quarters. They will announce earnings pre-market. Earnings release brought in line with banking peers. Anthony Noto loaded the wagon in December. Interest at 3.75%. It's likely going to be a nice period short term.
If you track all the stocks that push their earnings forward versus delaying them, there actually is a technical analysis. There is a better stock performance. Did you guys know that an article was written about us? It was not a good article. It was definitely against us. SoFi should be valued like a bank, not a growth stock. This was from IP Banking Research. He actually DM'd me saying he saw the last SoFi Weekly and he does not agree with us. The reason for this article is a number of YouTube videos I've listened to recently talking about SoFi stock, where clearly the 20 plus something investors are promoting the stock while clearly not understanding a lot of the basic aspects about banking and markets and creating unrealistic cult-like expectations by some investors.
If you can summarize it, like what are the main arguments?
That we're not looking at it through a capital or return on equity or profitability, unit economics or efficiency side of things, which is normal banking metrics, but instead we're relying on things like deposits, revenue growth, market share, and product numbers. I do value SoFi more like a technology company anyway, so I don't think that he's wrong in that sense. I definitely do. Return on equity is how much do you have? How much can you make on that? Where I think market share, member growth, product growth, this is actually growing the company total. Not batting an eye to things like market share is kind of sad because obviously legacy banks are losing whenever it comes to their spot on the field here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is the same argument that people make with Tesla and the traditional like auto company as opposed to tech company. And look, my argument is very simply that SoFi is at a part in its life cycle where it's high growth and you can't compare it. It's not an apples to apples comparison because you could just as easily say, well, all the banks offer dividends. SoFi doesn't offer dividends. Therefore, it's an apples to oranges thing. And at the end of the day, if SoFi is early on in the life cycle where growth is the most important thing because it's capturing more and more market share and it talks like a growth stock, it walks like a growth stock, I'm going to start valuing it like a growth stock because it's in that category. When it becomes very established, like the legacy banks are, very low growth, like the legacy banks are, paying high dividends and focusing on the traditional valuation metrics, then we can actually have an apples to apples comparison. But if we can't, because they're fundamentally at different parts of their life cycle, then obviously I'm going to judge it as a growth stock.
I mean, just look at how many deposits we're getting. In the last year, most of those legacy banks didn't grow at all or even lost deposits. To me, that's how you evaluate and project out into the future. Of course, we're a growth company, but we're looking at what the potential is and how fast we are growing. I mean, look at the numbers, 200, 300, 400% in some categories. It's crazy. And a lot of it is also on the tech side. We see a lot of potential value there that isn't being priced in my opinion.
That was a big problem that I had with it as well, is that he was pricing in a lot of our expenses, how efficient that we're actually running the bank, but not putting any weight on the technology business. The industry is moving away from cash and going towards digital payments. And I think those are great things to look at. If you are a legacy bank analyst, hard to value those things. It is hard to put any percentage of weight onto them, but knowing that all these things are going digital and that the security for banking needs to increase and that cloud banking is the systems that you're going to be wanting to go on. Even the large financial institutions are moving on to systems that SoFi can provide.
James in the comments highlighted it best. He said the critics want to reference it as a growth company when it's convenient for them and a bank when it's convenient as well. A lot of retail is so short-term focused. Like I get this on my videos all the time. I'll make a SoFi video and they're like, oh, you're pumping this stock again. It's every single video. I say, I'm focused on the long term. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it, because I'm focused years, not quarters or months. Just a wider point on doing your own diligence. Analysts themselves are very reactive with their price targets. You'll see this all the time. A stock falls 50% and then the analyst will re-rate it down 50%. Well, if you're re-rating a stock, as an analyst 5 times in any given year, then I have to start questioning your initial analysis to start with.
Well, the problem is they're objective. What they're trying to say is this is what it will be 12 months from now.
But even that target, like the 12-month price target, it's so short term. The reason why you have to do your own homework is because there's so many different layers of this company. I mean, we've been doing a podcast now weekly for almost 20 episodes, 20 weeks. And we're still sort of unraveling the different layers of the onion that is SoFi. Your time horizon is a really important factor in that as well. So a lot of these bull versus bear cases or hit pieces or whatnot, a lot of them fundamentally is a disagreement on time horizon. That's how that manifests.
We're just looking at the stock completely different. I don't think any company should be valued like a certain sector. I mean, Tesla should not be looked at like a legacy auto manufacturer. And there were a lot of analysts that got it extremely wrong because they were trying to put GM and Ford level margins on a company with a large energy side of the business, a completely different product, right? He's also not putting any weight on the idea that we don't have any branches. What is the cost for the 10,000 branches at TD Bank or JP Morgan Chase? Those are some of the highest costs that a bank can have. And are you actually valuing it appropriately, knowing that we run our entire bank off of a server?
Yeah, so I found this today on Reddit. Essentially what this is it's showing the customer acquisition costs for those that aren't aware of what that is. But as of whenever this was posted, our CAC costs were $40 per member. And we can revise these numbers, but I'm sure we all can agree that there's going to be a huge disparity between what we're doing at SoFi without having those physical locations, the back end employees, the old ledger, all of that, antiquated technology that we have to keep up with, or they have to keep up with. We don't. But the expenses, as you can see, that are in these CAC costs, according to this graph, show about, the legacy banks are about $2,500 per member, and then we're at 40. What did you come up with, Tannor, for our?
I'd say we probably average around 250 to 300, still much lower than the normal US banks.
It makes perfect sense, right? Because a bank has a really high customer acquisition cost because there's such a high switching cost. So generally, when a customer goes into a bank, you generally bank with that institution for a large part of your life. And so a large part, like your mortgage, all your earnings, all your expenses, all of them are profited by that institution, even though they capture you very young. And the high expenses are also due to the physical, like fixed costs, the branches. A Cash App is an app that you download on your phone. So there's like minimal like infrastructure other than like server costs and actually running, the product teams and engineering teams. And so if those are the two discrepancies, well, it makes sense that SoFi is kind of in the middle, but obviously leaning more towards like the tech side because they don't have the physical branches. I mean, if we want to exclude Golden Pacific, but it makes sense because SoFi offers a lot of the different products. They offer loan products, they offer the invest products, and all of those different products, I would imagine, have different price points on them as well, because some products are just loss leaders to get them in the ecosystem. The other point in the back of your mind, when you look at that, let's say $250 or $40, whatever the customer acquisition cost ends up being, is the cross-selling flywheel. I mean, every single quarter that comes out, SoFi has the ratio of financial services products to lending products be higher and higher and higher, which means that if somebody's coming into the ecosystem, they're dabbling in other SoFi products in terms of that ecosystem. What does that do to customer acquisition costs, right? Like that lowers it. So you do all the marketing campaigns, you acquire me for $250. I'm now your client. 6 months down the line, 12 months down the line, I might be using 2 or 3 products, and the effective rate, for that acquiring me as one customer to use one product is $250, but incrementally it's lower and lower and lower because now I'm using so many more products in that ecosystem. And so that strategy of optimizing that flywheel is even better from a customer acquisition cost perspective.
Sure. Yeah. The lifetime value is really where I would love to line these up. In traditional banks as well, it's going to look very similar to this sort of chart, right? Legacy banks are going to be making a killing compared to Cash App and the new banks of the world. Like, although their customer acquisition cost is low, so is their actual profits per customer. And legacy banks have that down pat. They've had customers for 20, 30 plus years doing, lending after credit line, after credit line, after credit card, after, all these things. So the lifetime value for their customers is sky high. As we're acquiring these customers at very young ages, 20 plus some odd investors or whatever I was called, right? They could be building out a lifetime relationship with this client. And that's also what's amazing about lending clients is that they're stickier. They're very much stickier, and including direct deposit clients, which SoFi is absolutely killing it at. So although you might not want to look at deposits or something like this because they're not, direct benefits like, return on equity is, that it does show that those are, monthly active users, and it also does bring a benefit to our lending side.
I think the other thing to keep in mind is like considering the stickiness and the high lifetime value that banking inherently has because of those high switching costs, like we said, the innovation for SoFi, traditionally in their DNA being a fintech as opposed to like a legacy financial institution is all the better, right? Because every year they're launching new products. Every year they're launching benefits. Every year they're launching rewards. And every year they're improving that holistic value of that ecosystem. So their network effects are just increasing more and more. And so if I think of, okay, if myself or Riley or whoever goes to SoFi at 20 years old versus going to JP Morgan versus going to Wells Fargo, well, in 10 years, what could the network effects be at each of these institutions? And for SoFi, just much more because of that culture of consistently improving and innovating. And fundamentally woven that under that narrative is this idea of a one-stop shop. Like their idea is to compile and aggregate and make your life easier, to make it a seamless user experience for everything financially related in your life. And that will be shown through the innovation all throughout the years, which these legacy banks just don't have because they have a culture of, the last 50, 70, 100 years where they just haven't had the need to ever compete on a feature level or on a value added level because there was no other alternative.
The bigger that flywheel gets as we add more, products, the less likely they are going to leave. There could be currently no reason for them to stay other than the APY. But then we add a product down the road that is appealing to them, like maybe a travel credit card or whatnot. As we add these products, the stickier it's going to get. There's going to be something that we offer that applies to that person's life that's going to make them stick, and stay. And I'm really excited about that as well, because no other fintech is doing what we are doing as far as creating these different products in different areas and putting it all into that one-stop shop. So that part's really exciting.
Technisys has this amazing opportunity to build like the best of the best like type of next-gen banking core on SoFi, and SoFi is going to be getting a lot of value from that. But it's like perfect synergy for R&D for this company, which is really cool because like they could just build as much as they can. They don't have to worry about meeting deadlines or anything. They just focus on making the product great.
The second element is what we call conversational banking, right? these digital self-service channels are great, but we all sort of have fatigue in filling out electric forms, right? E-forms, and pushing a lot of buttons, and then not always understanding why that is being asked or what they really are looking for in that data field. So we're starting to see a pickup in a type of artificial intelligence that we call natural language processing, right? NLP. So I have these preferred channels, right? Mobile app or internet banking on a desktop or laptop. I want to stay in my preferred channels, but I want the bank to be able to engage me in what we'll call plain English, whether that's spoken or written. And I want the bank to understand me. And, but this can be expensive for the bank, right? Because workers are not cheap, branch-based staff are not cheap. So you can put a natural language processor in there and create, chat bots or intelligent virtual assistant-like experiences. And then if the customer requests to switch to the human, or the chatbot recognizes, right, I can't answer that question, or I can sense, right now there's new technologies to sense frustration. So we call that sentiment analysis, and it switches you to a human. But the good news is it takes that whole chat history with it, so that the agent who takes over isn't starting from scratch. And it also, most importantly, you're remaining in that channel of choice for the customer.
It's really cool to see that, because that's something that all of these big banks are going to have horrible time converting over to, because big banks have so many different channels to communicate with their customer. If I get a bank account at Bank of America, I could still write a letter to them and say, hey, can you close my account? By law, they will have to honor that. If you join SoFi, you acknowledge in the agreement that you disregard some of those rights legally, because you signed an agreement before you open a SoFi account, which is fine. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, they're always going to have customers that still value that type of channel. They're still going to have workers opening up letters, reading it, and then sending it off to another person, and daisy chain all the way down till an account closes. So that's super expensive. This is cool because in 5 years, SoFi is going to be built in a way that is going to be cheaper to run than its competition. And then also, like, if you've ever talked to ChatGPT lately, chatbots are about to get kind of crazy. What do you think?
What I've been thinking as well is that I feel like hands-on use with AI is something that we all needed. Everyone gets their hands on this thing and realizes, holy crap, I'm about to lose my job. If you guys didn't think that, I thought that instantly.
I sort of just want to respond to one of the comments that Ricky dropped, where he said, I feel like this is all hopium, similar to the Tesla bot. If we zoom out a little bit, I'm so glad that you guys brought up ChatGPT, because I was thinking about it throughout that video. I think that what we've seen so far has the potential to revolutionize industries. So the 2 points I'll make on this is, like, traditionally, when we think of a chatbot, we think of those clunky, like, if this, then that experiences. Like, did this help answer your question? And you're like, no. And then it just throws up like an FAQ. And it just
all the 1-800 number.
It's stupid chatbots, man. Like, it doesn't have any intelligence. But one of the things that Michael said in that clip, which really stuck with me, is like, the goal is to humanize banking. If you think about that, that's a really interesting thing. And when I think about chatbots, especially after ChatGPT came out, the level of intelligence, you can throw this thing slang, you can throw it like typos in your request, and it'll still understand to give you like comprehensive answers. So that's one thing. What our fundamental understanding of chatbots has changed and is going to change with ChatGPT as a result of people having seen the potential. The second point I want to make is, this is not necessarily hopium, because that's literally the tech side of SoFi, is they have the infrastructure and the foundation from a tech platform perspective to build this infrastructure. That's literally what Technisys is. It's an AI-powered tool to help a conversational banking aspect. And so this is why we double down and triple down on the tech aspect of SoFi, because of these things. These are the byproducts of all of these back-end related technical conversations that we have today.
This is not going to triple our customer growth, but it's going to help with cost efficiencies whenever we don't have to hire people that are doing the chat agent bots on the side. And I don't think many people valued AI correctly until ChatGPT came out. And I'm pretty sure they just received a tender offer of $29 billion from Founders Fund. So
one thing that I really read this week that really fundamentally changed my framing was, why in the future would we ever Google search for anything where, like, you can just ChatGPT just gives you the answer. You don't have to proactively search. It'll just give it to you. And so that changes your entire framing on like how we use search engines. AI is a reality. It is coming. And ChatGPT really, I think, opened the world's eyes on the potential that it has.
It's an inevitability that this is going to happen. And you know what? It seems like Technisys has been working on this for some time, and then it's been misvalued because people didn't know how good it can be.
In August of 2021, I downloaded SoFi, and one thing that made me stay with SoFi, they did have like these unique calculators. So like they had like a retirement calculator and like a mortgage calculator, and all these like cool calculators were designed to like help you bring insights to like your finances. In the future is when we have conversational banking, you're going to enter in the calculator and it's going to show you stuff, but like you'll be talking to it instead. You won't have to enter in data. The data will already be there for you, and the conversational bank will be able to gather the data and be like, I think there's just going to be so many ways that this chatbot's going to be able to work because we're on one single core compared to other banks that will not be able to do this at all because like the data is so fractured.
It kills me sometimes, man, like that we even have to have these conversations because like here we're talking about like a ChatGPT like AI platform that is there to humanize banking. Meanwhile, majority of banking, like over 40%, is built on COBOL, a language that was developed in the 1950s before computer science was even taught in universities. Like the duality is absolutely mind-boggling to me. We live in a world where like you have cars, and meanwhile the other side of it has like barely discovered the wheel. Like it's insane.
I do think Noto's hit that, nail on the head where, like what Tesla did for his field, sort of revolutionized this area, is that finance needs to be revolutionized. People don't need to go into the branch for anything anymore. We don't even really need people behind the phones to answer a call or anything like this on a support team. We really are going to build this out like a technology company with engineers who are really running and making sure that a lot of these processes are working.
And one really cool point that Michael mentioned in that video, I think it was later on, he really emphasized data is key. Gathering as much data about your customers as possible is really what at this point is, I would say, one of the differentiators. With Relay, where you link all your other accounts, your bills, credit score, that is where we're gathering all this data to be able to use that for personalization.
AI is designed to learn so much faster than people understand. What might be extremely clunky today will be next to perfect next year. This happened so insanely fast. This idea that Riley wants to say, that ask it any question and have it, map out when's the next vacation I can go on. This is not down the line very, very far. It is for JP Morgan Chase and these sorts of companies that aren't working their way in that direction. But it isn't for these AI frameworks that if Technisys is working on this will be ready way sooner than we give it credit to.
All of the stuff that we've been saying that's like super bullish, for AI, and we're really excited, I think is the tip of the iceberg, because the 2 points that I want to reemphasize is it'll have all of your data over a decade or more because of the long lifetime value. And number 2, it learns exponentially. And meanwhile, we're thinking of all of these things, how it can still reactively be, a very, very smart friend or financial advisor or money manager or whatever. Like there's going to come a point very quickly when I can just say, hey, automate everything. I don't even want to look at my bank account. Do everything just as I would do it. And it can do it with a super high degree of confidence. I don't even need to look at my bank. I would just get updates on what it does as long as I have that trust in it. Like it's going to get so good that we won't even know or have the ability to think about today the possible use cases for it because of the potential that it has from a technical capability perspective.
Wait, why don't we jump into Galileo's new clients?
Binder just released this on Reddit just like an hour ago or something like that. But this is just new clients that they added to their website, which is interesting. I think one of them is a bank.
By the way, that's the prediction that I am the most confident in will come in 2023 is a huge legacy bank logo is going to be signing for Galileo in 2023, I think.
Ooh.
My only thing to that is that there has been almost 60 clients for Galileo, but then whenever we actually see how many names have been made public from some people that are searching for the names, that it's under 60.
Man.
Who are these people that get to not be publicized? I want to know that.
This is the start of all these client mentionings. I can guarantee you here in the next few weeks, we're going to get more of these client mentions because this is always what they do right before each quarter.
He's talking about the client showcase, just on their website that they display who they're actually helping with their services. And now Bender 9000 has noticed 3 new names: Daily Pay, CoinZoom, and Card.com.
Well, that's kind of cool. You can have like these branded Visa cards.
Yeah, and now I wonder if we got this partnership, because these are all Visa cards, if we got this partnership now because we are a Visa certified partner. Now, that's also what I'd be wondering every single time I see a new customer that's a Visa, that's their processor with their card, is it from that partnership? Is it actually working the way we thought it would?
We're going to have more clients next week. I just guarantee it.
On the topic of marketing, though, the NCAA championship, football championship, is going to be on Monday at SoFi. So we're gonna get a lot of eyes on our branding. So that'll be cool.
Speaking of marketing, the way that they used to do all these huge, colorful billboard posters in like cities and stuff, and do a lot of college stuff. They're just like, I don't know. I think Noto has kind of like pushed it towards more of like this like football.
Well, SoFi Stadium is not just football, right? Like it's all concerts. It's the Olympics. It's any other sort of the World Cup is going to be there. Like it's so many. It's just a gathering place, which is probably why that's the focus.
All the Swifties. I think Taylor Swift had a concert there.
I saw an advertisement from SoFi by somebody on Instagram back in October. It was a mummy hand coming out of like the ground and giving the middle finger. And it says break up with bad banking.
Anyone can give an advertisement to a Mr. Beast or whatever and spread it like wildfire. It's what are you going to pay for it? You know what I mean? And who's your target audience? We're going after a higher net worth user than just the average American.
Was thinking about that social media campaign on TikTok.
By Money Moves.
We gave out a $25,000 prize to whoever.
Billions of impressions.
8.3 billion views.
That is insane.
It doesn't mean anything though. That's more people than are live on Earth. Okay, who cares?
No, my point being, and the click-through rate on those to actually get members is probably extremely low based on who uses TikTok. But I think it's important to also build up brand imaging though for the younger generation.
Yeah,
multiple people watch SoFi Money Moves multiple times.
There's 2 things, and I think between yourself, Nick, and Tannor, you both mentioned them. It's target audience. They're very, very targeted with who they're pushing the message out to. Younger people, generally people that are on the higher end of the pay side and on the credit side right now. So they're being a little bit more careful about their new members. And then number 2, it's their brand messaging. And I think that that's extremely strong. They have a really strong value proposition. Break up with big banks. Big legacy banks suck. They give you no benefits. They always take. The messages are so strong. And I think so many young people just resonate with that so much more. And so it's that sweet spot of like, you know very well who you're targeting and you know very well what your message is to those people. And then you put those things together and then you have very, very sticky marketing campaigns.
I want to bring up something real quick. Nick, I think you're the only one that I know or speak of that has actually used the SoFi Pay in 4. What was your first impressions?
I was one of the beta testers. Is it fully rolled out now?
It's not. I haven't got it, and it looks like it's slowing. The rollout is slowing out. A lot of people thought it was going to be fully rolled out in like a couple of weeks, but it feels like it's being a little pushed back.
So it's actually a separate card. When you go into your Apple Wallet, you'll see for me, I have their credit card, I have their debit card, and then I have my Pay in 4 card. It gives you the option, add it right to your wallet, you're good to go. I think it was leaked at 50 to 500, and then it actually
it depends on who the user is. Some people get 50 to 100 or 50 to 500. Some people get 100 to 500.
I don't even get how that makes any sense.
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
I get 100 to 500, but I don't get 50 to 500.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, raising a maximum increases risk. Raising a minimum is nothing.
So maybe it's not about risk. What is it about then? Maybe
I think it is about risk. Going into 2023, it's going to be a tough year for a lot of people. They want to roll it out slowly and again, kind of see the defaults and how things go, and then maybe increase down the road. I've used it once now, and it's great. You can set up auto pay right out of your account. So I told it, I just want you to pay it in right from my checking account. I think on that Spaces, we were actually thinking about what would we use this for. You can't use it at restaurants. You can't use it at bars.
I think we're overthinking this because a lot of the factors that we are now harping on could very easily just be testing parameters. $50 to $100, it could be a multivariate test or an A/B test, as it's called. Like you roll out 50 to 500 in one cohort of users, 100 to 500 another cohort, and you measure the uptick based on those cohorts. Where it's used, the limitations, even the value. It's not so much a risk mitigation thing of like, oh, I don't know if our people can handle 1,000. It might just be as a result of them testing this out in a very limited beta release and then expanding where you can use it, expanding what the amounts are, expanding the flexibility around it. So I would take all of this initial rollout with like a grain of salt that they're trying to move fast, and then everything else is flexible based on what the initial response is.
Well, so I used up until this point PayPal credit, but I only thought of using that type of service, buy now, pay later for larger purchases. What I really like about the SoFi version is it is just a click of the button and it's auto pay. Now that it's so convenient to just have it auto paid, I am now thinking of using it everywhere we go for any purchase over 100 at this point.
They're going to make money off this service. I don't think it's a complete loss. The problem is any of these purchases that you would have made between $100 to $500, would you not have just put on your SoFi credit card or your SoFi debit card, which still gets, interchange fees. And it's not over a course of 6 weeks. It's instant. We're taking on risk. Like even the default rates for our home loans are 0.1%. That's 0.1% that we have to, have credit provisions to actually pay back if we lose those. I don't know what the percentage for buy now, pay later that we could possibly lose, but what is the percentage that we're gaining from the people that go, oh, if only I could buy this, but I need to pay it off over the course of 6 weeks. It just, I don't know if it makes any sense. I don't know if that you wouldn't have just bought with a debit or credit card.
I've used Affirm a lot. I would just delete the app now if SoFi did it for me. And I think it goes back to like SoFi is making its app better every so slightly. Everything is getting better and better and better. And it's going to come into this ecosystem where it feels like Apple. Like once you're in, you can't get out.
The only thing that was strange about it was the limitations, but I knew that was all because of the beta testing. I'd be shocked when they roll it out if it's still those parameters. But when they open that up,
what's the upside? Well, we have a very real downside, a potential to lose. This is not a free product to offer. This costs money. We don't make anything. And now, yes, we do make something, but we would have made that same money without the risk. You know what I mean? And then if there is risk, like credit cards, at least the upside is significant. You know what I mean? The risk reward is very, very high. You don't pay, we'll come after you for 18%. The downside of not paying is severe. And none of those sort of systems are played out in buy now, pay later.
But I think that goes back to the flywheel. I mean, this is a product where it's just going to, be another offering for the customer to say, oh, I like this paying for an auto pay option.
Fair.
Another reason not to change. It's that stickiness, as someone mentioned in the comments. But
in that case, it's one reason not to go to Affirm.
Their mission statement kind of dictates this. And even if it is a loss leader, and even if it is like more risky than your reward in the short term, their mission statement is like, hey, look, we have all in one. If you're like a SoFi customer and you want to do the buy now, pay later, why would you go to Affirm? Like we would offer this in-house. And so I think like right now they're still in that early building stage where they're building horizontally, trying to cover all of the different offerings that you could possibly want. And then later on, the next stage is like, how do we optimize deeper into all of these? So there is risk in the short term as a business, but at the same time, if you think of like the flywheel, the ecosystem effects, and their whole mission statement of having everything all in one, in the long term, I think that will flip.
The CFO of SoFi actually has seen our podcast. I don't know if it's been a couple times or whatever.
Always welcome on, Chris.
Yeah, Chris, come on. On Twitter, you can go find this guy, Nick, at SoFire.
In the description, anyways, the Twitter,
Yeah.
along with the rest of our links.
All right, love you guys. Let's just go to an end. Let's just.
All right.
I take it too long. I don't know how to stop.